So tonight's lecture is to bring passion back into your marriage. And so I put together 10 commandments for a happier relationship. And to begin by saying that there are 613 ways for a Jew to connect to God. Every mitzvah means connection. And by doing a mitzvah, we have another connection with God. And when we do a mitzvah, we make a bracha. Baruch atah Hashem, asher kidishanu b'mitzvosav. We thank God who has sanctified us, who made us holy with His mitzvos. But yet, the only mitzvah that we call holy is marriage. For the word for marriage is kiddushin, which means holiness. And therefore, we realize that marriage is truly a very holy institution. However, it doesn't mean you have to be institutionalized. And therefore, hopefully, these 10 commandments will give us a bit of an insight and a directive of how to really enhance our marriage. It's important to know that those who have come here tonight are not labeled as needing more passion in their marriage. But rather, we believe that if things are good, they can get better. The Frierdiker Rebbe would say, if good, is better, not better. And therefore, it's really to enhance our marriage and to see how we can make things better. So the first of the 10 commandments of marriage is compromise. And my congregants know already this concept, and that is, what does compromise mean? The first thing we do after a wedding, in other words, the chassan and kala, the bride and the groom, when they come home after the wedding, what is the first thing that they do? The first thing that they do is they kiss the mezuzah. And the reason why they kiss the mezuzah is because the mezuzah is a reminder of compromise. There are two opinions in the Gemara how a mezuzah should be placed on the door. One opinion says that the mezuzah should be vertical, like this. The other opinion says it should be horizontal, like this. So we compromise and we put the mezuzah in the middle. So when you enter into your new home, you kiss the mezuzah as a reminder for compromise. What does compromise mean? For example, if the wife wants to go to Punta Cana on vacation, and the husband wants to go to Israel on vacation, you compromise. You go to Punta Cana. So that's the first rule of marriage, compromise. The second rule of marriage, is the following. It says in the Talmud, Ish v'isha zachu shechina sharui b'neihem. If man and woman are meritorious, then the divine spirit rests among them. It's interesting that both in the word Ish and Isha, we find the word fire. Ish is fire Yud, Isha is fire Hey. And therefore, I thought that if Ish and Isha spell out the word fire, there must be a very important message here. And that is, in many marriages, you see people get married, and they're excited, and they're on a high, and they have passion, and they're in love with each other, and all of a sudden, like a few months down the road or a year later, they don't have that same passion. Where did the passion go? And they wonder, maybe we weren't really meant for each other, because if we have no passion now, maybe there really wasn't any passion to begin with. But marriage is like a fire. You start off, and you have this big, big bonfire. You have all this wood and all this gasoline. All you need is a little match, and you throw it in, and poof, you have this amazing firing inferno. And this firing inferno is a passionate relationship. But you know something? As the fire eats away the wood, the fire dies down. So therefore, it's a very simple solution. You have to stoke the fire. If you don't stoke the fire, you're going to lose the fire. So how do you stoke the fire? I believe one way you can stoke the fire is by doing little things. My wife always tells me, I don't love diamonds. You don't have to buy me diamonds. Do little things. Take out the garbage, buy me flowers, the little things. So I personally try to buy every Friday flowers for my wife. And she knows that every Friday I'm buying her flowers. And that's the way I stoke the fire. A number of years ago, there was a pharmacist in the neighborhood. He wasn't a Jewish fellow. And I walk in to fill my prescription. I'm a little crazy, I need to take these pills. So I'm standing there waiting to get my prescription filled. And I asked the pharmacist, how long it's going to take. Another few minutes. In the meantime, I'm thinking I got to strike up a conversation. I say, so tell me, how's life? He goes, I said, okay. How's marriage? I said, married? I said, marriage should be, marriage should be, wow. It should be phenomenal. That should be marriage. He says, mine is, I said, look, let me tell you something. I'm a rabbi, I coach many people. Let me tell you what to do. You're going to buy your wife flowers once a week, number one. When was the last time you bought your wife flowers? I can't remember. When was the last time you took your wife out on a date to a restaurant? Can't remember. When was the last time you took your wife on vacation? Can't remember. Okay, so this is what you're going to do. Number one, you're going to buy her flowers once a week. Number two, you're going to go out to a restaurant once a month. Number three, you're going to go away on vacation without the kids once every 3 months for at least 2-3 days. Okay, he says, Rabbi, when should I buy the flowers? What day of the week? I said, look, I'm Jewish, so I buy the flowers Friday before my Sabbath. But you're not Jewish, so you could buy it Wednesday. Okay. I leave the drugstore. I come back the next month to fill my prescription again. So I said, how's marriage? He goes, marriage? Whoa, it's amazing. I said, what'd you do? I followed you. I go across the street like you do, and you buy the flowers, and I buy those flowers too. I say, what day of the week do you do it? Well, I do it Friday. I say, why Friday? Rabbi, if it works for you, it works for me. So I buy it on Friday. And I took my wife to a restaurant, and we went on a vacation, and life is phenomenal. So these are little things that we can do to really enhance our marriage. Another concept is called respect. And I want to tell you like this, that this is a halacha in the Code of Jewish Law, and I've said this over the last few years over and over again, that unfortunately nobody told me this law before I got married. And I wish they would have, because I believe things could have been a lot better. Baruch Hashem, things are great, but it could have been even better. This is the halacha. I'm going to read it in Hebrew and translate the halacha into English. The Alter Rebbe writes in the Code of Jewish Law, V'tzarich li zohir me'oid be'oinas ishtoi, one must be very, very careful not to abuse his wife verbally. Because of the fact that tears flow freely by women, so God's wrath is swift to come. And always must man be careful in the honor of his wife. For blessing is found in his home only because of the wife. And therefore the rabbis would tell the students of their generation, honor your wives so that you become rich. So, if you don't care about, halacha, if you don't care about all the other things, you all care about money. So, the most important thing is, if you want to become rich, There's one way to become rich. You have to honor your wife. You will honor your wife, then you will have money. That is a halacha in Shulchan Aruch. The next thing is, it's important to know that no one is perfect. No one is perfect, besides my wife. Somebody wrote to the Rebbe many years ago, complaining and kvetching, my husband is not doing this, he's not doing that, he's not doing the other thing. And the Rebbe responded as follows: since the sin of Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden, there is no such thing in the world as perfection. If you're looking for perfection, you have to wait for Mashiach to come. Now that's an amazing letter, because it tells us that it's okay not to be perfect. You're not perfect, your spouse is not perfect, and you have to let things go. A very, very important thing. No one in the world is perfect. Another important commandment, the two most important words in a marriage, of course, is yes, dear. Very important. Always say yes, dear. The next two most important words in a marriage is go daven. When your husband makes you crazy, just say go daven. Go to the shul and daven. Get out of the house and go to the shul. Now I want to tell you it's a very important halacha. I'll tell you why. I tell this to all the young chasans and kalas. I say it's very important, chasan, every day you should go to the shul and daven, and if you could do it 3 times a day, it's even better. And they say to me, Rabbi, what's the chiddush, what's the novelty? A religious Jew should go every day and daven, right? I said, no, I'll tell you the novelty. You're going to get married, and you're going to have all this passion. And it's going to be the first year of marriage, and you're very religious, and you're going to follow the Torah law to the letter. And the Torah says, the first year of marriage, you shall make your wife happy. So you think you have to stay home all day to make your wife happy. In the morning, you're going to make her happy. In the afternoon, you're going to make her happy. In the evening, you're going to make her happy. And you're going to not go to shul. You have to go to shul, but it's more important to stay home and make your wife happy. You can't do both at the same time. So you're not going to go to shul the whole first year. Shabbos comes, you're making your wife happy. Sunday, you make your wife happy. Every day, you're happy. 3 times a day, happy. All of a sudden, a year later, your wife gets pregnant. And she becomes a little nauseous. It's called morning sickness, if you don't know about that. And all of a sudden, she's throwing up. All of a sudden, she's not so much fun anymore. And then, all of a sudden, a baby comes. And the baby's up in the middle of the night, then in the morning and the afternoon, you have to diaper, you have to feed. All of a sudden, honey, I can't diaper the baby now. I got to go daven. Honey, I can't feed the baby right now. I got to go daven. Honey, I can't buy formula now. I got to go daven. What do you mean you got to go daven? Last year, you're home all day. You never told me about going to daven. Now you become so religious on me. You don't care about davening. That's an excuse. You're finding excuses to leave the house. So, the way you establish yourself the first Shabbos of marriage, that is the way the entire life goes. If you set a precedent, I got to go daven, not a problem. Go daven. But the moment you become over-religious and you're home the whole first year, you're never going to daven again. So go daven is a very important commandment. Another story. In 1963, there was a young lady who was getting married, and she went into the Rebbe for Yechidus, for a private audience, and the Rebbe asked her, does she have all the things she needs for the wedding? And she said, of course, I have a wedding gown, I have this, and we have the florist and the photographer. And then the Rebbe said, do you have a mezuzah for your new house? And she was startled, yeah, I have a mezuzah. Said the Rebbe, do you know what a mezuzah stands for? She says, no. So the Rebbe said a mezuzah stands for 3 things. Mem, Zu and Ze. Mem has the gematria of 40. 40 are the 40 days and nights that Moses was on Sinai to receive the Torah. If you want to bring peace into the home, there has to be Torah in the home. On another occasion, the Rebbe said the first thing you see when you go into a Jewish home should be Jewish books. Unfortunately, I've met many people who don't even have one Jewish book in their house. It's important, the first thing you see when you enter into a Jewish home is a Sefer, a Chumash, a Bible, a Siddur, a Tehillim, a book of Psalms, etc., etc. So the first thing is, it's important that you bring Torah into the home. The Rambam says that the purpose of Torah is peace. God gave us Torah to bring peace into the world. The Mechilta tells us that God waited until the Jewish people were like one heart and one man. They were at peace. And then he said, I will give the Torah of peace to the nation of peace at the time of peace. So Torah is about peace. It's very important that there is Torah in the home. There are books in the home and there's study in the home. On another occasion, a couple came to the Rebbe and they told the Rebbe, we're not getting along well. So the Rebbe said, first of all, you are to know, did you get married b'chuppah b'kedushin? Did you get married under a chuppah? Yes. Did you have the Sheva brachas, the 7 blessings? They said yes. Said the Rebbe, if you had these 7 blessings, you are to know that God is with you every 7 days of the week. Each blessing is for another day of the week. And therefore these blessings give you the strength to overcome any challenge that comes in your direction. That's number 1. You could overcome every challenge. Number 2, do you study Torah together? The husband and the wife should study Torah together. And the wife said to the Rebbe, what should we study? And the Rebbe said, start with studying the portion of the week. Either you take your spouse to a Torah class once a week, or you take a book and you put it on the table and you start with Bereshis from the beginning and you discuss the words. The discussion of Torah itself will bring peace into the home. That is the mem of mezuzah. Then you have zu. Beisoi zu ishtoi. Zu stands for the wife. The wife is the one that sets the tone in the house. And therefore she has to realize it's her home, and the way she wants the home to go, that is the way it's going to go. But it's up to her. I remember a number of years ago, it was sometime after 1992, my wife and I were looking to buy a home, and we had 3 children in 1 teeny bedroom, and we went from condo to condo to condo, and finally we found something affordable. As a Lubavitcher Chassid, we don't buy a house until we get the Rebbe's Beracha. At that time, it was after the stroke, and therefore the Rebbe wasn't speaking, but he was answering letters by shaking this way and that way. I called Rabbi Groner, the Rebbe's secretary, and I asked him at that time for a bracha to buy this new home, and I gave him the address and everything. He said to me like this, before I ask the Rebbe, I have a question to ask you. What's the question? Does your wife like it? I said, what kind of question is that? I mean, if I'm calling you Rabbi Groner, obviously we checked it out together, my wife likes it. No, does your wife like it? I said, hold on a second. Shteni, do you like the house? Not really. I said, Rabbi Groner, not really. Not really? If that's the case, I'm not going to the Rebbe. I'm not going to ask the Rebbe. I say, why not? Because the Rebbe said that the woman is the Akeres Habayis. She has to like the house. It's her home. You're lucky if she lets you inside that home. But it's her home. It's her home. And that taught me a very important lesson. It's not about if I like the house. She has to like the house. So the woman sets the tone in the home. And by having the home opened and inviting guests into the home and having Jewish books in the home, this is the way you create a home of peace and tranquility. And finally, Zeh. Zeh Keli Vanveyu. This is our God, and we will glorify Him. How do you bring God into the marriage? As we all know, there are three partners in marriage, right? There's the husband, the wife, and the mother-in-law. I'm sorry, that was a Freudian slip. I meant to say Almighty God, of course.
We'll talk later.
So the question is, how do you bring God into the marriage? You bring God into the marriage by creating holiness in the house. And that is, of course, through Taharas HaMishpacha, family purity, which is called mikveh. I must tell you, I'm a big fan of the mikveh. And that is, Kanahara, we are married now, how many years is it? We just celebrate our 23rd wedding anniversary. And I believe very strongly till today that one of the reasons why, Baruch Hashem, we have a successful marriage is because of the mikveh. And I'll tell you like this. When the mikveh first opened, I had another gentleman who was a therapist by the name of John Gray. You heard of John Gray? Right. He wrote the book Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus. And he came here, he sat right here, and he spoke to us. And before he spoke, I told him about our mikveh. And he said, wow, the mikveh is the greatest secret to a happy marriage. I said, what do you mean? He says, very simple. When a couple comes to me, and they tell me, John, we're not getting along together, I say the first thing is, look, before we discuss details, go back home, and for the next week, I want you to separate. You have to sleep on separate beds or separate bedrooms. No touching, physical contact, only verbal contact. That's it for the whole week. Next week you come back, we'll discuss the details. So, they come back a week later and they say, John, we're sorry, we couldn't do it. After 2-3 days we had to get together, so will you still, work with us? He says, of course, that was the objective. That was the reason I told you to separate. Absence makes the heart grow fonder. And this concept you have already in the mikveh. Your Jewish people, your God gave you a law of mikveh which you must separate every month. That is the greatest advocate for a successful marriage. So I say, John, in your next book, I want to see a blurb on mikveh. He says, well, I'm not a rabbi, I can't do that. But John, today I am doing it for you. I'm letting the world know that you said that mikveh is the greatest secret for marriage. So that is the way we bring God into the marriage. And being that we have no children here, I'll tell you another thing. There's a lawyer in the neighborhood who is not that religious. And every time I would come into the office and we would talk, he would always like to, poke fun a little bit, and see how he can get me a little upset. So he tells me, Rabbi, I have a girlfriend. I go to visit my girlfriend in Florida every 6 months. And when I go to Florida every 6 months, it's fireworks. It's amazing. And I'm sitting there, I'm thinking, how do I respond to that? And I said to him, I got to tell you, I feel very, very bad for you. You mean you have to wait 6 months for fireworks? I said, in a Jewish marriage, you have fireworks every single month. So, I'm not impressed with your girlfriend in Florida. The idea of the mikveh, the Talmud says literally, what is the reason why God gave these laws? That a woman has to separate from her husband is literally so that the husband should love his wife, that the wife should be beloved by her husband. And that is the idea of Zeh. Zeh Keli Vanveyu, this is my God and I will glorify him. So these are the commandments of marriage. And finally, a commandment that I heard from my grandfather, Rabbi Jacob J. Hechel, blessed memory, and it goes like this. He said that before he married my grandmother, Rebbetzin Hecht, many years ago, he said to her, you should know that I'm a Yankee. And because I'm a Yankee, you should know that I'm going to be the boss of the house. So, I will be the head of the house. And if you agree that I will be the head of the house, then we'll go and get married. So my grandmother said, look, you could be the head and I will be the neck. Wherever the neck turns, the head turns. So that is the final commandment, to know who's the head and who's the neck. And I believe with these 10 commandments we can start to really enhance our marriage. And even if you do one or two of these concepts, this can truly change the entire paradigm and bring more joy and more passion into your marriage. Thank you.